I'm convinced I would now vote the Greens.
Great. But hey.
Hello, I'm Simon McKegney, and welcome to this unfiltered podcast with the Greens in the European Parliament. I'm joined here with Lena Schilling and Michael Bloss. You're both very welcome. Thanks for taking the time. We're going to talk about climate. We're 10 years after the Paris Climate Agreement. It seems like a long time ago, but wasn't very long ago. And you're both in the middle of quite a big fight now on the next phase of what's going to happen for the climate direction of Europe and also, I guess, the world as well in the years to come. And we're also facing quite a difficult political situation, I would say. So we're going to get into all of that. But firstly, we need to get to know you a little bit. I think it's also nice for our audiences. Michael,
Yes.
do you remember where you were when the Paris Climate Agreement was signed 10 years ago?
I remember because I was at the Green Party of my region and we were doing our election manifesto. But I think I came there directly from Paris. So I was not there when the signing was there, but I was there with the youth delegation from the Young European Greens. And I remember that kind of this message was kind of, it felt like a bomb into this meeting and everyone was standing up, cheering up, was celebrating because no one would have thought that we're actually getting there, but also getting there with the 1.5 inside, because that was always the question is like, will we limit temperature rise to 2 degrees? And then the small country said, hey, look, 2 degrees, that's that sentence for us, 1.5 needs to be there. So that was cheerful. Happy.
And also the tears from this negotiator, and it felt like a really big moment, no? Lena, do you remember approximately where you were?
Probably in school or at home. I was 14 years old, and it was quite a big moment as well, because there was not that kind of climate movement at this moment, but of course I was interested in climate. And at this moment I did not really know what that means now, but I had the feeling of, okay, now we have a plan. And then having this feeling of, okay, the leaders of the world actually have a plan and do something gave me some feeling of, okay, we can follow this path. And now we are in a completely different situation.
Tell us a little bit about those early days of getting into the climate movement from when you were a teenager up to now.
So it really started more like, my mom is a social worker and I started more to care about social justice. And for me, the climate question and the social question were always super close connected, because we know in big cities, the areas heat up the most where the people have the least money. And there were always disconnections. And my mom worked a lot with homeless people, and what increasing temperatures in summer due to homeless people, that was something I was actually caring about. And that's just emotions I had when I was 14 or something. And then all of this developed a bit. And then with 17, I joined the climate movement when it was really big. So this was a path into it.
Very nice. Okay, before we get into the topic in detail, we have a task for you for during this podcast.
Very good.
We have a classic cardboard sign. And over the course of the next 20 minutes, at your leisure, you have
at
to...
At our leisure.
At your leisure.
That's great.
I'm also going to be still talking to you, so you kind of have to multitask.
Oh, no.
That's
okay.
Very difficult for me.
You have to come up with your key climate message for 2025. Whatever you like, but it can relate to COP, and I know we'll talk about that in a bit, but whatever you like, take your time, and I'll continue the podcast as we go. So, we're going to get into the bit more of the issue now, and I'd like to start, maybe, Mika, with the backlash on where we are now.
Yeah.
We have Trump in office, we have companies and conservative parties all across Europe backing away from all of the things that we hold dear. Where do you think we are, or more, where do you think this goes over the next few years of this mandate?
Yeah. Okay, we can start with this, but I also want to go a little bit more into history, because to understand that we are actually not at a super bad point right now, just in terms of what we achieved. Maybe that's also my first climate conference was 2009. It was like Copenhagen. It was, everyone wanted something to come out. It was a failure. And then there was breakdown, and then 2015 happened. So currently we are in a situation where we had 5 really good years of climate legislation. We had the Green Deal, and I made the climate action tracker calculate how much did the Green Deal for our European climate path. And before 2019, Europe was on this 4-degree pathway. And with all of this Green Deal legislation, we're now quite close to a 2-degree. So what we did in the last 5 years, really, what we were improving the European climate pathway of a bit less than 2 degrees, which is super amazing. Never, ever happened this in history. So that was really good. And now it's the point that this actually becomes also difficult for the fossil industry because they see that they cannot continue and they are fighting back. So what we have to do right now is really to make sure to preserve this, what we achieved, to preserve the Green Deal and make sure the fossil industries, they cannot attack it and can continue with their dirty profit maximization policies. So this is where we are, but we really see attacks all over the place. Yeah. The most important thing is the 2040 climate goal, 90%, something that we also achieved. The European Scientific Board of Advisors on Climate proposed this 90% target. And we have it now in the law, but it's being attacked by Germany, France, others. But that's not the only thing. Then, I mean, the main topic or the main instrument is the ETS1. So this is the carbon pricing system for industry and for energy. It's heavily under attack right now from industry, the CO2 in cars, so that we there's no new registered combustion engine cars after 2035, heavily under attack. Renewable energy targets, heavily under attack. Everywhere there is the attack. But the point is, we're coming from a good place, and we need to really preserve it.
That sounds like we can still do good things, and we can still do stuff. Lena, I should have said at the start of the podcast that we try to do it as jargon-free as possible. So on the 2040 target, explain that in a very brief sentence or two, what you're up against, what you're fighting for with this 2040 target.
So, okay, I will try to make it as simple as possible. It's sometimes very hard because, of course, we are working a lot with this jargon, and then losing it again is not the easiest thing. But mainly, it just means we need a climate target for 2040. We have a clear goal for 2030 and a clear goal for 2050. And for 2040, this intermediate target is needed to give a path for the industry, but also for citizens to adapt a bit to the changes. So what we really need is some clarity. And I think especially in times that are so uncertain, where we have this back and forth and instabilities, what we really need is a clear direction from the leaders, from all of us, saying we committed to do climate ambition and we're sticking to it. And this 2040 target is in the end the question, do we stick to climate ambition in Europe, or are we in one way or another leaving that path or doing some strange movements there? So to make it as simple, it's the direction of climate ambition in Europe.
And well, we're in the middle of that fight, basically.
Yes.
How's it looking?
Difficult. Normally, as I said, it should have been totally easy because we have 2030, we have 2050. Everybody understands you need a path between that points. So we need a target. It's not even a big or new thing, but there, and that's interesting, it becomes a big and new thing because we are facing, and Micha was right, we were starting from a position where the climate movement was strong, where there was climate ambition, and now they are backtracking, and they are backtracking in a way where we even need to fight for the things that were given. And now this 2040 thing is becoming bigger and bigger because Micha already said it, Merz, Macron and other, and I will say it like that, old white men are trying to destroy climate ambition and our future in line with Donald Trump and others. And that's super absurd because that are the people that decide over the future of the next generations, of your children, and they are not doing what's needed. And there I'm a bit like, let's see, but we're up for the fight. And in this parliament, we are still willing to fight. And we need also 2040 goal to go to Brazil, because right now we have also we're negotiating a climate target for 2035 that's needed. And 2035 and 2040 are always seen together because it should be a binding target. And we need this goal also for COP. So we're not just doing it for Europe and for European citizens, where we need it, or for the European industry. We are also doing it to show climate ambition in the world and showing, hey guys, hey Donald Trump, we are still caring. And if you are not caring, we will find allies. We will fight together with the Democrats. We will fight together with other countries. But if we're not doing it, Europe is the first country that's again saying, continent that's again saying, yeah, okay, we are not caring anymore.
Okay.
No, I just want to make. I mean, just what are we talking about? In the last report from all of the scientists that work on climate, they had this interesting graph, and it said, so what does happen to a child that is born in 2020? And it basically shows, like, in the year 2065, not even the highest risk scenario, it could already be the world could have been already 3 degrees hotter. 3 degrees hotter means, I mean, for Europe, even more. Europe is the hottest warming continent. 3 degrees hotter means basically in Spain there is no tomatoes coming from Spain anymore. They cannot do agricultural produce. It's really a acute danger to our economic system, to the basic things like food.
Europe looks like a very different place.
And 2020, a child that is born in 2020 is 45 years old in 2065. That's really not long.
Yeah.
45 years old. And my daughter is born in 2020. And when she's 45 years old, maybe it will be completely different. This will be fights. This will be like the close to civilization not being able to sustain itself.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about some, goals, We're talking about the fate of every European child that is born in the 2020s.
Yeah. That's a good segue to the bigger climate negotiations and the global ones, which you mentioned, COP, which we say now for the listeners as the climate summit. You've both been to COPs, you'll be going again this year. I think we should maybe get into the detail of the one coming up in Brazil. But for COPs in general, these big global summits, a lot of people are looking at those. They've seen them in Gulf states where you have fossil fuel oligarchies there. You see deals done on fossil fuels on the sides of them. Is this whole system of meeting to discuss climate targets at a global level working or making sense? And maybe I go to Lena first while she's working on her sign.
Yeah, I'm very concentrated, as you can see. Giving me a sign is always, then I need to concentrate. No, there are 2 points to make. I think the first one is these climate conferences are the only place where all the global players come together, and the global south also has a say because they're also invited and they're also there on the negotiation table. And the most affected countries have a saying there. And that is why we need these places, because it can't be just Europe, the US, China, and India making deals over the future of so many other people and countries. So I think that's why we need climate conferences. Are they working now like they should? That's another question, because of course with Donald Trump leaving the Paris Agreement, that is not easy to now have a negotiation process where we know that the big players are maybe backtracking. But at the same time, and that's why I think we as progressives should really advocate for having places where we come together and we make commitments. And as Micha said, that we managed to get a Paris Agreement in 2015 feels almost impossible. But these things that in the beginning look like we can never achieve them, if we work hard, if we stick our hearts and heads together, it is possible to do the impossible and to fight for another world. But therefore, everybody needs to be at the table. So yeah, we need them, but this one will be, again, very tough, as the last ones were. So no, it's not easy. And also the surrounding and everything, it is getting more difficult, but just giving up because it's difficult is maybe not an option.
Your experience of COPs in the past?
Yes, we absolutely need them. I think it's also an important way to pressure those who are responsible for the climate crisis. It's very different. Yeah, like most of the African countries, they are suffering it, but they are not responsible. Whereas industrious countries, us, the Europeans, US, we are enjoying the wealth that has been created also by polluting the climate. But of course, it needs to look very different. I mean, currently it's like sometimes 30,000 people, even more. There is in Dubai, in Sharm el-Sheikh, they were doing, like fossil deals. They were selling their oil and their gas. So like that there must be a policy to ban all fossil lobbyists from these climate conferences because it must be about the climate, not about people making deals to pollute the climate even more.
No. Okay, very good. Your signs are coming along nicely, I see. We're going to move on to another round called the quickfire round. I feel like we need some sort of jingle for this in the future.
Now you can sing something.
Yes. I'm just going to throw an either-or question at you. Whatever's the first thing that comes into your head, give the answer, and I might ask a follow-up as to why. So, Lena, Leonardo DiCaprio or Al Gore?
Al Gore.
Oh.
Okay,
fair enough.
I understand
That's
why.
was not the toughest.
China or the US?
The US, still.
Still.
I mean,
who's building more solar panels while burning more coal? That's the question,
that's of course China is building more solar panels. But I mean, Chinese is an authoritarian regime, and at least you have a lot of democratic systems inside the US below stupid Trump.
Okay. Hope or rage, Lena?
Both.
Oh,
yeah,
you'll have to explain that one.
I'm hopeful that we manage, but I'm very angry about the leaders that are not doing what they should, because it's the bare minimum. And there's a lot of anger because there are people selling our future for profit instead of doing what's necessary. But I'm hopeful because there are millions and millions of people all around the world who fight for climate.
That's pretty good. Oh, here's one for our German colleague. Train or electric car?
Train.
Yeah.
It's much faster.
Yeah.
I'm going with the train from Stuttgart to Brussels every week. And in best case, it takes you 4 hours. With the car, it takes you 7 hours. So, I mean, it's not even a question.
Okay, fair enough. Last one for Lena, protest or plenary? You've been at the forefront of both.
In the moment, more plenary. When I have some time off, more protest.
Okay. Thank you both for that round. We're moving on to one of our second last rounds, which is a myth-busting counter round. And you both have questions for each other. And I think we're starting firstly with Lena's question to Mika. This is the sort of the classic question that the Greens get. And Mika, you have to come up with a very good counter argument to it. Lena, take it away.
So you Greens really only care about emissions and not people.
Yeah, absolutely not true. I mean, like the planet itself, it could do without people, but we cannot do without people. And we do climate policy for the people, not for the planet, in essence. But I think it's also a bit of an old thinking because it's actually the other way around. We need to do climate policies that is socially progressive, and it can be done. So, for instance, like investments are needed really to get away from gas-fired heating systems or from fossil cars. And the US Joe Biden in the very beginning, he had this Build Back Better Future bill. And the whole core of it was this kind of affirmative climate action. So everything that we do for the climate, it has also a social progressive impact. So when we build public transport, we first connect, the not so well off neighborhoods with public transport. Why? Because first, I mean, it's great, social progression, but also they would need it more. I mean, they would actually use it because they need it. The first thing that we do is that we are insulating social housing. That's really important for them to reduce the costs. But of course, it's also good for the public budget because actually they are paying this. So it really goes together. And I deny that it cannot, that it doesn't. It really has to. But it is the question of how you do it. And if you're a conservative politician who basically says, okay, I don't care, I just want to make life for people without a lot of money miserable, then they use climate policies to do that. But that's not us. we are the ones who cannot make a distinction between climate and social policies.
Very good.
I'm convinced I would now vote the Greens.
Great. But hey,
Michael, you have a myth-busting question for Lena as well.
so Friedrich Merz always says that we only have 2% of global emissions. I think the European Union only 8% of global emissions. So we are really small. Like, we cannot do anything. I mean, like China, US, these are the big polluters. They have to move first before we move. I mean, otherwise it's really bad. And we're deindustrializing, and it's really bad.
It's really bad. Yeah, I love this but China. That's always the but other countries argument. And then if you really put it back to the basics, if you have a homework in class and you need to do it in groups, and then you have 5 people and everybody is saying like, no, but you need to start first, then in the end, nobody will do the homework. So in a very simple setting of somebody needs to start, and I think also there we need to speak about Europe's responsibility in a global perspective and also in a historic perspective. So just saying we don't have any responsibility here is a bit weak, I would say. But then also saying like we have a Paris Agreement where over 190 states committed to it. So 190 states said, yeah, we will do it. But Europe is now like, yeah, but we don't have that many emissions. That's just wrong. And then also in the question of global negotiations, then we are always writing in every resolution, every paper, Europe is leading, and we are losing more and more in many different sectors that leading position, speaking about electric cars, speaking about solar panels and so on. There I'm a bit like, then we can look and say, but China, but in the other way around. So that's just not even true. And if we want to speak about competitiveness, if we want to speak about keeping jobs in Europe and saving jobs, then we need to do this transformation in the industry. That's pretty simple, but this back and forth is costing jobs, is costing a lot of money. So Friedrich Merz, get a grip.
Do your homework. I'm convinced.
Good.
Great.
God, we're so convinced here. It's great.
Yeah. Well, we're talking to each other.
Yeah, that's the echo chamber.
You hope we would more disagree?
Well, now we're going to ask for something for our listeners of what they can do, because we really like to end on a bit of a positive note, on a hopeful note.
So it's already going to
ways of getting involved, how people can remain hopeful and active. So I have a few questions. So, Michael, if there was one thing that you could fix and you could do it tomorrow, what would that be?
The climate? Or what do you mean?
One aspect of climate that you could really just, with a click of a switch, fix.
I think I would do some profit tax on fossil companies. So to basically tell them, look, this is not going to work. We will just tax the hell out of you because you are going to destroy our planet. And we take this money and we invest it into the transformation for what I just said, public transport, for housing, for social leasing, so make like that everyone can afford having actually an electric car, lower the electricity prices. I think it's just, we have this huge injustice of how wealth is currently distributed, and there's still so many big companies that still make so much money off destroying our future, and it can't happen. We have to change it.
Lena, with 2040 on your radar and your political sphere, what do you think is the most important single action, most urgent action that needs to happen before 2040?
The problem is with the one thing, there is no silver bullet, but what we need is a transition of the industry, a transition of mobility, because of course we know if we just improve public transport, as Micha said, it's the best thing for the people and it's the best thing for the planet, and also transforming our energy. And for all of that, we need one thing, and that's the thing we really need, commitment. Commitment to do these policies, that's what we need.
Okay, last question then from my side. I give it to both of you. So where do you see...
You have to take like a little bit longer time because I'm not done with my science. So think about more questions, please.
I go to Lena first, but she can answer very slowly for Michael.
Well, we can continue this conversation.
So we had Paris Climate Agreement 10 years ago. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And what would be a hopeful message to look back on in 10 years to say, we did it, or we could do it?
Thinking about this moment where we really were in a position where it's not clear how the future will look like, and having the security and the hope. And I know at this moment that the next generations actually will have again the chance to say to their children, your future will be better. That's like a big promise. We always said to our children over generations, you will have it better when you're grown up. And right now we can't say that. But in 10 years, and that doesn't mean more money or more profit, but it can mean a livable future and the promise of a world where we did the right things. I think that's a pretty huge one.
It's a pretty good one. Michael?
Yeah, what gives me hope? I hope I have this sign done soon. Look, when I was in grade 8, I don't know, actually, it's like a long time ago, maybe 2000 or something like this. I built a solar power panels on my school. And at this time, they were all saying, "You like all of these Greens, you're so crazy. And this solar energy, it might only be like 2-3% of our total electricity mix because it's, I don't know, it's so unstable." Now, basically, the biggest supplier of electricity in the world is solar. It's just massive. It's everywhere. It's so cheap. This has been done in the last 20 years. Okay, maybe I'm a bit older, but okay. And if we think about the next 10 years, what will happen? I'm sure, like all of this non-fossil things like electromobility, but also like green steel, like electrolyzers, like heat pumps, all of this is possible, and it's even more economical. It is just a question: are we able to defeat this kind of vested interest of the fossil industry? So it can happen, and I'm super hopeful that it will, because it just makes sense and it happens all around the world. The question for me is just: will the Europeans be the one that are at the forefront and are profiting from it, or will we sit down and watch the others do this? And my hope is that we will be the ones that can do it.
Oh, nice! I'm already feeling inspired. So we're going to end on your lovely posters. Michael is still coloring in urgently. He has to do his homework still a bit.
Yeah. Like Merz.
So Lena, to show us your beautiful sign and explain why you have picked this message.
I think mainly because that's what, on days where I feel we're losing fights, I always feel we need to make clear that this doesn't need to be that way. We actually can win again. And I'm sick of losing, because losing in that sense, I'm not just bad in losing, but it means that we're losing or risking a future. And I think, therefore, it's always important to remember that it's worth fighting for another world. And if we fight for it, it's possible that we still have the future we're dreaming of.
And for the listeners, the message is: another world is possible. Very nice. Very nice. Mika.
I want my kids to have a good life too.
Aww.
And I think that's kind of the what we are fighting about, no? We are really the last generation that can turn this. And this is about the future of our children that are born already. This is also a future of our lives. It's the question whether they have the same freedoms, the same rights, the same possibility to strive. And we have to fix it. So let's get it done.
Thanks a million for joining, both of you. We would love to see if you're willing to take those signs all the way to the climate negotiations in Brazil. Maybe you can take some photos for us for these. A big thank you for both being here today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for today. If you like this conversation, you can find out how to subscribe to our podcasts at greens.eu/podcast. This podcast has been a production by the Green IFA Group in the European Parliament, with the help of our editorial team, Katie, Alexiane, Rita, Jeroen and Lena. Technical support was done by Andrea and Agnes, editing by Cloak. If you have any comments, reach out to us via podcast@greens/ifa.eu. Take care.